Hi, welcome back everyone. I'm continuing making some interesting builds, and this one is inspired by PoE2. I still haven't played it, as I'm waiting for more content added to the game, but I kinda like the idea that we can do some combo and deal a lot of damage. I don't really like the fact that we are getting forced to do the combo, but that's not the topic of this video. It's been really a long time since we last were able to one-shot some bosses with bow characters. And we didn't have the Ubers then, so I think now is a great time to introduce some crazy one-shots into the game. This build is more of a meme build and it's not really possible without the mercenary, so if you want to try it, now is the perfect time. Also, I'm going to show some new tech to boost the damage of almost any build that is using Taming Rings or Elemental Hit. Okay, let's get started. The goal of this build was to one-shot some bosses. And what other better way to do it other than using Snipe gem? Snipe is a channeling skill gem that will shoot an arrow when you stop channeling. For each channeling stage, you get 110% more damage with hits. By default, we get maximum of 6 stages, so without any investments we get 660% more damage. The numbers are insane. But we can push it even further. Luckily, quality on a Snipe gem gives additional maximum stages. So if we invest into quality of a gem, we can get up to 6 additional stages. We can achieve it with the help of Ashes of the Stars, the Owl's Body Armor and Enhanced Gem. To push the maximum stages even further, I'm using Asylum Helmet to get additional +2 maximum stages for the Snipe. Combining everything above, just from the Snipe itself, I'm getting 1540% more damage. But let's not stop with the damage multiplier here. To get even more damage, I decided to use Wont Ascendancy. Wont is really great Ascendancy to get raw damage for any elemental build. Mainly I'm talking about Avatar of the Wilds. Getting Unbound will grant us additional 80% more elemental damage. But we shouldn't forget about the tinctures. As I'm always saying it, tinctures straight up overpowered. In this build, I'm using Tincture for increased elemental damage and elemental penetration. The combination of Unbound and Tinctures literally quadruples the damage. Now let's talk about the main damaging skill. And since we are getting a lot of quality already, ideally the skill will benefit from it as well. After doing some research, I decided to stop on Elemental Hit of the Spectrum. Main reasons were that quality on it will give us more damage for each elemental ailment on the enemy. Okay. If we are going to stack as much elemental ailments as we can, it's almost impossible to beat the Taming Ring. This ring will give us up to 48% increased elemental damage for each ailment on the enemy. If we manage to get all 7 ailments on the enemy, this ring will give us more than 300% increased elemental damage. But before I'm going to talk about getting ailments on the enemy, since we are the bow character, it's pretty obvious that it's really easy to get crit capped and get a lot of damage from investing into critical strike multiplier. So with the help of some power charges and some knots on the tree, I'm crit capped without any problems. Now let's move forward to the ailment part. Also, I'm going to talk about the way to get some damage for any character that is using the Taming Rings or Elemental Hit here. Usually when people are playing elemental bow characters, they are using Interrogation Jewel to get Secrets of Suffering Keystone. This keystone will make you apply Scorch, Brittle and Sap instead of default ailments. It is also possible to do this with the Leadership Prize Amulet, but Ashes of the Stars is just too hard to beat. So anyways, for my build I decided not to use this jewel. The reason is pretty simple. Since we are Warden, we can use Oath of Winter and Oath of Spring to reliably apply freezes and shocks on the enemy without needing to do big hits. So it means that I'm going to apply Shock, Chill, Freeze and Ignite. But what about the other 3? If we are not gonna use them, we are gonna lose a lot of damage from Taming and more damage from Elemental Hit itself. Here is where Mercenary comes to the help. Our Mercenary is going to apply last 3 elements. How you're going to ask? With the help of Alternating Scepter from the Haste. This scepter will grant Secrets of the Sufferer Keystone to the wearer. So now it means we can achieve all 7 ailments on the enemy. To boost the damage even further, the Mercenary will wear Yoke of the Suffering for additional damage multiplier on the enemy. Also, as much as I don't like Dorian's Merc, this Merc will fit perfectly into the build, as it's impossible to beat the amount of damage we can get from Dorianis with the raw aura. But unfortunately, POB numbers and how it plays are completely separate things. After playing a bit with the build and Mercenary, unfortunately he is not applying those ailments reliably. So I needed to figure out the solution for this problem. And after thinking for a bit, I suddenly realized, why not to use this scepter with weapon swap myself? This way I can apply all 7 ailments without relying on the Mercenary. And this is perfect. Because of this we can swap the Yoke of Suffering for per kill stall to get even higher damage. So we can use the tech in the next league without the Mercenary. If you're using Taming Rings, Elemental Hit of the Spectrum, Yoke of Suffering or anything else which scales with the amount of ailments on the enemy, you can just use Alternating Scepter in your weapon swap and use something like Volcanic Fissure of Snaking to apply Brittle, Scourge and Sap. And this is pretty much it when it comes to the key interactions of the build. If you liked the video so far, don't forget to like and subscribe, as it will motivate me to make more videos. Also, if you would like to watch me theory crafting those builds, or just have a chat, or ask me any questions, feel free to follow me on Twitch. Okay, now let's talk about the gear. For the bow, I'm using Spine bow with as much elemental damage as possible. It's not that hard to craft this bow. You just recombine all prefixes first. On average, in order for you to get 3 prefixes with laddering up, 20 bases would be enough. So it's something like 3k alteration. Then just lock prefixes and use Veiled Chaos or Exalt, craft attribute and unveil attack speed. Then craft cannot roll attack modifiers and exalt slam until tier 1 crit multi. If you fail, annul and repeat with cannot roll attack. Then just finish the craft. For the quiver, I'm using some random quiver with a lot of damage. It's not even that good, I'm just too lazy to recraft it for something better. For weapon swap, I'm using this scepter. To craft it, just spam essences for cold damage until you get some attack speed, some flat damage, and you can finish the craft with multi-mod. It's not really necessary, and also I'm using Squire just to get elemental elements more reliably. The helmet is Asylum helmet with +1 power charges corruption. The body armor is Dialos with +2 projectile corruption. It should have 4 reds and 2 greens for Snipe and Elemental Hit. The gloves are default gloves with Fraction Tempo mod. To craft them, you need to Fracture Tempo mod first. You can move it away from the bad base to the good via Recombinator. If you're curious how to do so, you can ask me on the stream. Also, don't forget that you can change the mod with Harvest Reforge resistance. Then you just spam Essences of Zeal until you hit another res, then lock suffixes, reforge life, and finish the craft. The boots are default elevated tailwind onslaught pair with elusive. For the amulet, Ashes of the Star with maximum quality roll and lasting tempest anointment. For the rings, the taming with catalyst to get 48% increased elemental damage. Since this is a bow character, Headhunter is really nice for this build. For the flasks, I'm using Tincture with elemental damage and elemental penetration, Bottle Faith for more damage, Quicksilver, Silver and Diamond flasks. Now let's talk about the tree. This is pretty much default elemental bow tree. I'm getting some bleed crit multi nodes, projectile speed, projectile crit multi, elemental damage, some life, tincture passives, maximum frenzy, crit multi, additional arrows, reservation passives, leech, accuracy, some mark passives, and some necessary mana regen. For the Ascendancy points, I'm taking Season Hunter, Oath of Winter, Avatar of the Wilds, and Oath of Spring. Now let's talk about the jewels. This build is not using a lot of them. For the Watch Cluster, I'm using default Watch Cluster with increased effect, attack speed, and some all resistance. Ideally you would swap it for the bow passives, but there are none on the market and it's really annoying to craft them, so I'm using this one. Then Forbidden Set with the Far Shot. Rare jewel with triple crit multi here. I decided not to use Little Pride with double damage here because I was aiming for one shot and I would prefer a more reliable way to deal the damage compared to the getting some double damage chance. But you could use it if you want. Watchers with some crit multi, and last but not least, Lionized Fall with a combination of those passives. Now let's talk about the Merc. This is default Dorianis Merc with double Wrath alternating scepters. To craft them, you just use cheapest influence orb on the scepter and then just use Harvest Bench to change its influence to Crusaders. Then you just spam essences for flat damage to spells. Because my Merc has Absolution skill and is considered to be a spell, you spam essences until you hit Wrath effect and finish the craft with some attack speed, multimod or some ladies. The helmet is Crown of the Tyrant with blue socket. Body is obviously Dorianis. For the gloves, I'm using Soundbound for some flat damage, lots of cold resistance, huge maximum life, and elemental weakness corruption. For the boots, any random boots with a lot of resistances and life. The amulet is Perquil Stole for lucky damage with +1 curse anointment. The ring is minus lightning resistance ring. For the belt, I'm using String of the Servitude for Wrath effect. Now let's talk about the gems. In the helmet, I have Flame Dash, Mark on Hit with Sniper Marks, and Precision. In the body armor, for the single target setup, Enhance in the green socket, Elemental Hit in the green socket as well. The rest, Snipe, Awaken Elemental Focus, Awaken Elemental Damage, and Hypothermia in the red sockets. In the gloves, Mana Forge Frenzy setup with Life Tap and Power Charge on crit. In the weapon swap, Volcanic Fissure of Snaking to apply additional elements, it's linked with Critical Strike, Awaken Unbound Elements for long duration of elements, faster attacks, multi-strike and elemental proliferation. Next, in the boots, Aura setup with Bow Haste, Enlighten, Clarity and Anger. Now for the weapon links, I have two setup. First one is for prepping the boss. I'm using Rain of Arrows of Saturation, Proliferation, GMP, Faster Attack, Increase Critical Strike, and Awaken Unbound Elements to boost the duration of elements again. And the other one is for general mapping. Elemental Hit of the Spectrum, Mirror Charger, Awaken Chain, Awaken Elemental Damage, Inspiration, and Hypothermia. And this is it when it comes to the build. The final damage number is around 900 millions average hit for non-Ubers and 267 millions for Ubers with some Culling Strike. Crazy, right? But unfortunately, it's with everything conditional enabled. For most of Pinnacle bosses, we are unfortunately not able to freeze them, so we are losing a big portion of the damage. But even without the freeze, it's still quite nice. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about the boss in rotation and how to deal those crazy numbers of damage. Unfortunately, we are not able to do through one-shots of Ubers as we need to prep the boss. Firstly, we need to apply all 7 elements and get 100 unbound stacks, and only then we can finish the boss in one arrow. So the rotation goes something like this. You enter the arena, you start using the Rain of Arrows, sometimes swap into Volcanic Fissure to get some Brittle stacks. You do this until you get around 90 unbound stacks. Then, you first need to use Volcanic Fissure so that you update the duration of the Brittle, Sap and Scorch. Then you weapon swap to the bow and attack several times with Rain of Arrows in order for you to get all shock stacks on the enemy. Then you move away a bit from the boss in order for far short to work. Press all flasks, tincture, unbound and channel until you get 14 stacks of Snipe. And then you release it. And depending on the amount of shocks and damage roll, you should be able to finish it in one shot. Meaningful combat, right? But be wary that we have one problem with the Snipe gem. For some reason, if you run out of mana while you channel it, you won't shot any arrows at all. In my version, I'm not able to sustain channeling indefinitely, so if I overchannel it and run out of mana, I will not shot any arrows. So depending on your mana situation, you need to pay attention to it. It took me some time before I realized why sometimes I was dealing literally 0 damage while testing for this build. Well, this is it guys. What do you think about this character? It's not really good for playing as it has 0 defense, but since we can use Headhunter, we can do some mapping, and with one-shot tag, even the bosses are not a problem. Honestly, I would just use the weapon swap tag for the default elemental hit builds, and the damage increase would be really noticeable for the bosses. If you want to turn it into a real build with some defenses or something, I would recommend you create Ignite character with Burning Arrow. It also scales really nice with the quality, so you can do some serious damage with not a lot of investment. Overall, I'm really happy with how the build turned out, and I'm ready to create something interesting again in the future. If you like the content, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to have a chat, then feel free to join my Discord and follow me on Twitch. And if you want to support me financially, there are links in the description below. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!